and get to know the community and your history and what's important to you about the place, and really interweave that into the design. So every design is different and really fits and is rooted to the place it exists. One more. Okay, so this is our project schedule. So as I said, we started back in the summer of last year, and we did vision and programming and site analysis, and then we went on hold for a little while. We were investigating some different options with the siting of the library, and came back to the original concept of the library being where it is, just over on Durgan and Main Street. And we finished up that phase, and we're started into what we call schematic design, which is the first phase of design work. And we're here with our main community event for this phase. We'll be wrapping that up in May, and we'll get cost estimates for the design that we land on. We'll also do some renderings and fundraising imagery for the project, and we'll report out on that in late June. And we'll have another community meeting at the end of schematic design when you can see the final outcome. And then again at the end, reporting back at the end of this phase. And the way that stitches into the kind of the overall project is, I call it kind of phase 1 of design. Here, where we're getting the initial design work, and enough that then the library and the city can figure out how they're going to fund it. So we'll probably go on pause, whether it goes out to bond or whether there's other funding strategies. And then we'll kick back into phase 2 of design, which is called design development and construction documents, where you're actually figuring out the systems, mechanical, the structural, everything to do with the building and design development, and then figuring out all the details of how to build it. And there'll be other moments for community participation in that phase of design as well. And that'll usually take probably about 9 more months, well, 6 to 9 more months of design, and then probably a year of construction. Going back to the last community meeting that we had in the summer, that one was really, we didn't have any kind of design work done, no plans or anything. It was really more about collecting information on what you wanted in your library, like what are the spaces, what are the qualities. And so obviously you can't read all this, but we documented all the different comments that we got. And the little hearts mean that they were really endorsed comments, that people really loved that note. And you can go in afterwards and look at all these comments online. But we summarized those comments into what we are calling kind of the priorities of the project from what we heard. And I'm going to go through these because I think they're really important. And what we'd love today is that they're all listed on one of the boards. And if something really resonates to you of these priorities, or if there's a few that you just feel really strongly about, we'd love to know, like, what is your priority for the project. So we've categorized them into, the first category is cost. So we want to do a very efficient design layout, so there's no wasted space. So that 11,000 square feet, every square inch is counting for you. It's a cost-effective design that maybe uses local materials and trades. It also has low operation and maintenance costs. Also for the site, the fact that it fronts on Main Street is really, really important to us and to the city, and that we really want to strengthen Main Street and the vitality that it has through this project. We also want to create a positive and safe pedestrian experience through the design. Parking obviously needs to be considered for the library. We also are looking at creating a connection with City Hall and the Senior Center, almost like a civic complex of buildings within Washougal. And then optimizing natural daylight in the positioning of the building on the site. Then under sustainability, which was a very popular board that we had, lots of comments on that. Energy efficiency for long-term savings was very important. Healthy materials and air quality, lots of natural daylight, always great for libraries. Water efficiency, no fossil fuel use, and we'll be pursuing LEED Silver Minimum, which is a rating system for sustainability. We'll probably get to a higher level, but that's kind of the baseline that we're targeting. And then other design considerations, we want to reflect the community of Washougal in the design, and that's why these meetings are really important, because we want to hear from you. We want to provide an active focal point in the downtown area. The spaces should be flexible and able to evolve with library service. So we don't want to have anything too fixed, because 20 years from now, library service may be different, and it should be able to be reworked within the space to provide that service. We want to incorporate outdoor space with retractable cover for rain. This was really important. We heard loud and clear in the last meeting that even though the site is really small and there's only so much area for outdoor space left over, that was really important to consider what we do with that space. We also want to make sure the design works with the adjacent development and fits into Main Street again. Consider acoustics. We want to make sure that you can be noisy in the library, but you also have spaces that are still quiet and allow that more traditional library experience. The library should feel welcoming to everyone in the community. It should provide safe spaces for all ages. All the spaces should be accessible. And we should provide after hours access to a community room and bathrooms. So the rest of the library can be secured off, but you could have an event so the library can to rent out their space to other community groups, and you have that as something that's great for the whole community to use. We also want to use durable materials and easy to use systems. Okay, I'll pass it over to Marissa.
Excellent. All right, thank you, Laura. So when we talk about the building program, these are all of the smaller individual spaces that fit within like the outer walls of the library. And so we've worked with a consultant, and she has helped us to map out basically the shelving amount, like down to the detail of amount of books on shelves, and then up to the larger scale of numbers of meeting rooms and how large the adult space needs to be to support the amount of seating spaces and flexible uses that Laura mentioned previously. So this is a breakdown that puts all of these program areas into essentially 6 sections. There's the public areas. So this captures the lobby, the main restrooms. We've also included a 100-square-foot art gallery within the program. The Friends of the Library, this is also within the public areas. Adult services, youth services, including teen and children's spaces, and the meeting areas, and staff, back of house, and support areas. So overall, this library program puts us at about just over 13,000 square foot library on just over a 17,000 square foot site. And so some kind of quick math, that gives us about 4,000 additional square feet remaining on site once you subtract the building program from that overall site area. And so I just wanted to break out a couple of these spaces and show a couple of past hacker projects that we've worked on, and some non-hacker projects that we also find inspiration from. And so the adult spaces, this is approximately 2,400 square feet of the program, has a really large capacity for books, new periodicals, DVDs, audiobooks, etc., and lounging and seating spaces. And within these adult spaces, the intent is really to be able to host a variety of uses. So as Laura mentioned, the more traditional quiet reading spaces, but you also want room for collaboration and gathering with others and finding kind of your zone within the library space. The children's spaces, this accounts for approximately 2,200 square feet of the program. And what's really important in children's spaces in libraries today that we've seen is really flexibility, of course, but also learning through play. So it's not just about books, it's about the space and additional uses. And this children's space would also include an adjacent family restroom and family space. The teen spaces, we heard a lot during our last community meeting that the teens really wanted their own room, and we heard that from a couple teens, and we also heard that from everyone else that they want their individual space to hang out with each other, space for gaming, reading, studying, hanging out, that's acoustically separate as well from the library. And so for meeting and gathering spaces, the program currently accounts for one large community meeting room. So this would be space where we could hold an event such as this, space for about 86 people seated, 186 standing. Those are very exact numbers. There's some flexibility in there. And this space would be ideally located central in the library space, right off the lobby and near the restrooms, so that it could be used by the library program during the day, but it also could be rented out for after hours events and such. And the program also includes a smaller 6 to 10 person meeting room and 2 to 4 person meeting rooms. And these could be rented out, used by groups or for individual studying in quiet time, or if you needed to have a meeting and be a bit louder, that would be the space within the library that you could do so. Outdoor space. So one sort of important distinction, the outdoor space is not listed as part of that 13,000 square foot program, but we heard so many amazing comments and ideas at the last meeting. It's also something that we feel is important, is having access to outdoor space, fresh air, and greenery. And so we also heard that there could be so many additional uses used in that outdoor space. It could be a gathering space, reading, and that possibly contain a water feature. Passing it to Amelie.
Thank you. Okay, our pointers working. Okay. Okay, so I will kind of do a jump into where we are in the design process for the building. And we're in the very, very early stages. And a lot of you have already looked at our posters in the back. But what we're studying right now is just the site itself and how these different program pieces that Marissa just described can fit on them and where the big rocks, so to speak, want to be on the site. And then, of course, an important question is, how is that outdoor space, the leftover site space of about 4,000 square feet, how does that fit into the design of the building? So we'll look at some very preliminary diagrams. And before I get into those, we'll talk a little bit about the inspiration for the design and some of the questions that we ask and that we want to get feedback from you. So starting with the history, Washougal has a very rich history. We want to know, what stories you would like to share with the community and how can this library bring those stories to life. It has a very, very rich culture. I'll go ahead and say the joke, but we were told that community meetings cannot happen on Saturdays or Sundays because people are out enjoying and recreating and enjoying this beautiful place, which we really respond to and really want to make the design sort of embrace that, that love for nature and active lifestyles. And then the landscape obviously is hard to beat. So we're looking at the landscape, we're looking at the views, the agricultural context, the natural surroundings. Obviously the connection to water is very important. Washougal means rushing water, as you all know. And so looking at that and looking at the site and how these kind of ideas and these themes can sort of bring the design and the building to life. And it says landscape here, but we also are looking at the context and sort of the urban landscape, so to speak, of Main Street and this very important downtown that has so much potential. And we want to sort of bring life to that and sort of engage with Main Street. So to start with a site analysis, just to orient everyone, the site is actually behind those posters, just outside the window there. So we're this kind of flag-shaped site between C Street and Main Street. A couple of important things. So the community center is just to the north of the site. The City of Washougal building is just to the northeast. And so those connections will definitely be important, and we're thinking about entries coming from that side of C Street. The post office is just across the street on Main. Coming from East Washougal via Main Street is a really important connection. And then the Steamboat Landing Park and the river access down here to the south, super important. Other things that we look at when we are looking at a site analysis are the path of the sun path diagram. So these sort of faint sort of circular lines here showing the way the sun moves at the summer solstice and the winter solstice. So we're really thinking about where we put windows and where we put the reading room so that we can optimize the best light for those functions. The prevailing eastern winds kind of coming down the gorge. So we know that that's also a big issue. And we've heard that opening a door in Main Street can sometimes be a little bit treacherous. So we're conveniently looking at an entry point coming off of Durgan Street, actually, which will be well protected from the wind. And we're also looking at ways of making that entry very visible from Main and still very welcoming and kind of connected to the downtown fabric. And then this is a diagram because it's always a very important question about parking. So we are sharing with you one idea that looks at maybe squeezing some parking onto the site, which might be a little challenging, but there is a lot of parking surrounding the site. Most notably to the north, the city is looking at a plan to increase the amount of parking up there and make it much more accessible and easy to get to. And it would be a really great place to park for the library and directly across C Street. And so that plan is looking at about 100 plus spaces that would be used for the public for the library. So again, emphasizing the importance of that sort of secondary entrance to the north off of C Street. So these are the, excuse me, 4 very diagrammatic plan ideas that we're looking at. And the key differentiator is how we're using that 4,000 square feet of extra site space that Marissa mentioned. So what are we doing with the outdoor extra space, which we know is very important to the library and also to the community. So the plan on the left is an idea that tries to get that parking lot in there. It's not very big. There are about 6 spaces. There might be some issues with curb cuts, and we need to you know, figure this out, talk with the city about this option. I won't call it a disadvantage, but a characteristic of this site is that there isn't any outdoor green space to enjoy within the layout of the spaces, right? So there is that parking lot to the north, and then sort of a consolidated building where as you enter off of Durgan Street, I talked about that entry at the, sort of the off of Durgan there, protected from the wind. You walk between the community room to your left and the teen room to your right. You enter in a central lobby. And then the children's reading room would be at the north end of the site, and then the adult reading room would be at the south end of the site, kind of directly engaged with Main Street. And then along the east side, and I didn't mention this, there is actually a there's a mixed use 4 to 5 story building that is being designed for the neighboring lot just to the east of the site. So it will be a tall building, oops, excuse me, this building here. So you'll see in a lot of these schemes, we like to consolidate the program spaces that don't need a lot of natural light or access along that edge, that property boundary there. So there is no setback. Yeah, it's a party wall. So there probably will be a little bit of a gap for fire code reasons, but yeah, so that would be here. And then you'll see on the larger plans in just a moment, there's still a buffer between the dentist office to the east and the northern part of the site here. So a lot more fresh air and light will kind of flood the north part of the site. And so then you have your services and sort of your spaces that don't need as much light to the east side of the property, like the restrooms and some small meeting rooms that are directly adjacent to the adult reading room space. And then the admin offices and staff offices would be at the north end with windows to the north light and an access point to the parking lot. This second option takes that 4,000 square feet of outdoor space, and we've sort of cut it in half. And so one idea would be to create a setback off of Durgan Street to create a covered entry, kind of a porch that runs along the length of Durgan. And so you have more of a narrow building. It also provides a much larger sort of entry court that comes off of C Street. So this would be a secondary entrance coming from the City Hall parking to the north and could direct people directly into a central lobby. And then plan layout is very similar to the first one, where the children's reading room would be to the north and the adult reading room would be to the south. And then this third idea has a similar concept with the entry court. However, in this one, there's actually a pretty generous setback from the mixed-use building to the, mixed-use building to the east. So there would actually be an entry court coming off of Main Street that brings you into the lobby. There would also be sort of a more narrow entry coming off of C Street to the north. The community room in this scheme, and this one as well, I should mention, have the ability to open onto a courtyard space and have outdoor public events that could sort of flow in and out of the community room and into the courtyards. And then the fourth option takes all of that, or most of that outdoor 4,000 square feet of outdoor space, and creates a large central courtyard directly across from the lobby. So as you enter, this option also has a generous entry and entry court off of C Street. So those two would be connected. There would be a gracious courtyard as you enter from C Street, which is also large enough to use for library events and everyday reading and program function. This is the only scheme as well that shows the children's reading room having sort of a diagonal relationship to the adult reading room. One advantage of that is that this children's reading room then has lots of natural light onto that entry court coming from C Street. It also has the ability to open onto the courtyard. And that's shown here with this dashed line so that there can be events that sort of spill in and out of the two spaces. So a deeper dive into this first option. This was the one with the parking lot. I didn't mention the grade change on the site, but one of the things that we've been sort of working around is a 6-foot grade change along the site. So at the north end of the site, or sorry, if you look at Main Street and if that's 0 feet elevation, it raises to about 6 feet high at the north end of the site. So there's a total of 6 feet in grade change from the north to the south. So one of the opportunities with putting this entrance on Durgan Street is that we can use the elevation of the sidewalk right there at that entry to establish the level of the project of the building, which would be on one level. So it would be at about 2'4" in this scheme. So the floor of the building would be about 2'4" above Main Street, so pretty low, and it would be at 4'10" below at the north end. And this is a very diagrammatic massing. So we say massing, but really it's a just to establish scale and proportion. We're not doing architecture yet, and we're not looking at roof forms, but it's just kind of an idea to show you, what the build out of that space might look like. Showing the parking lot to the north. And then this is that second option that has the full covered porch, the full recessed entryway along Durgan, and then a entry court coming off of C Street. A similar concept with the cross section along the building, where the entry point would be at about 3 feet above grade. So a little bit above Main Street here, and then a little bit below C Street here. And then a massing of that idea. And here you can see how that floor level is just a little bit above the street. And this is that idea with the courtyard, the entry court off of Main Street. And then a massing view of that one. And there's that entry court providing some relief against the larger building to the east. And then this is the central courtyard idea. Similar concept with the entry level. So it's at about 3'6" above Main Street here. And then there's that courtyard just shown in the very diagrammatic massing view, bird's eye view. And that's it. Yes.
What is that building going to consist of?
Yes, it's a mixed-use building. So we'll have the main level will be retail space. So very transparent, could be a restaurant, coffee shop, we don't know yet. And then the upper 4 levels will be apartments.
And so the, in constructing a noise would definitely be an issue, correct? It would be noise from, say, a restaurant, the library next door.
Yes, I think, yeah. It would definitely be mitigated. There would probably be a gap between the buildings, and so they wouldn't be sharing a wall. And so that gap in and of itself, and just having the construction of 2 walls next to each other would be enough to provide separation, acoustic separation. Great question.
Hey, Calvin, are there any good questions from chat that you want to, I just don't want to keep people waiting if they've been asking.
One of the questions, Patty from online was wondering where our photos of the new photo was from. Asking the title of the office to where the new photo was from.
Okay. I don't know.
The one in the history.
Yes, in the back.
So I have a question. So that mixed use building is going to be four stories.
I
So
think
it's
there's
Probably.
still,
Yeah,
over 2.
yeah, probably 4 or 5 stories.
Okay.
Yeah.
So with that garden area, outdoor area, shade most of the time.
only for the morning. So early morning it would be, and we have, we can do a shadow study to make sure that the courtyard is oriented to have sun most of the time, but only in the early morning. And then once the sun sort of hits that noon time, it'll be fully sun-baked. We hope. Yeah.
6 people online. So can you repeat any of the questions?
Yes, thank you for the reminder. Yeah. Yeah, so the question was about the future mixed-use building to the east of our site, blocking sunlight into the courtyard, which is a really great question. And because of the orientation, because it, as we're showing in the courtyard scheme, it would be to the southeast of that courtyard. The only sun that it would block would be in the mid to late morning. And then after about noon, there probably shouldn't be any shade in the courtyard. Any other questions?
Yes, in the back.
Maybe a tough subject, but with the 2 years of the pandemic, how are the contributions and the collections coming along towards financing this project? Anyone target with that, and time target? Consider that.
We can pass that question to maybe Amelia or Judy from the library.
I can speak to the library district. So we had set aside 1.5 million, slightly more than that, by the district's capital fund, which I think 3 or 4 years ago. In March, we just allocated another 1.5 million to the project. So the district's put like about $3 million so far. I know that the friends have some funds, and I will just speak to the funds. This is the one.
Thanks for asking. So for the people online, we're asking about the funds for the library, and Amelia's just addressed that. And for the Friends of the Library, we continue to have fundraisers, book sales, where we're selling books for 25 cents to $1. And some of the seats, you see a flyer that says that we're having an event called a novel night, which is a fundraiser that we're having at the Get Together Farm on August 6th. So we hope that that will be a huge incentive for people to come and gather and kind of redouble our efforts that we had. So we have about $300,000 from the Friends of the Library that we've raised to date. About 100,000 of that was from the dinner in white that we did for 4 years. This is our chairperson from that event, Jerry London. And so we're hoping that this novel night event will make that much money or more. And we also have cornerstone opportunities available where people can have their name or a loved one's name on the wall of the library. So we have payment plans for that. We are taking donations all the time, so I'd be more than happy to talk to you or anybody else.
Just the goal, the overall goal, 50, 60, 40.
Oh, since we don't have the amount
You don't
yet,
have the final. Yeah.
right, so after the design is finished, I believe over the summer, we will be getting pricing.
Yes.
Right?
Okay.
And then we'll have a bit better idea, but we still have a lot to go.
Yeah, we're
Okay.
estimating somewhere between 6 and 7 million.
Okay, well,
I'm sorry, can you say that? Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
I'm gonna try and get one online question real quick.
No problem.
Hey Susan, unmute yourself and let's see if we can hear you.
Hi, yes, this is Suzanne Donaldson, Cowlitz Indian Tribe, Tribal Councilwoman. I am the daughter of Patty Kinswa Geyser, who is the daughter of Ike Kinswa, who is the son of Ike Kinswa. We were invited here specifically today to provide consultation on this project. I brought with me also the vice chair of our tribe, Patty Kinswa Geyser. I would like to defer to her first to speak as my elder, and then I will speak after her. Patty.
Thank you. Listening to this is very exciting. The question I have is why I asked if it was a vacant lot is because the Cowlitz tribe needs to be consulted before the land's disturbed. We have departments that do that under the NEGPR laws to make sure that no ancestors are being disturbed. And that needs to be done before any construction can start. And we're very willing to work with this. And I'm excited about this library. I live up in Lewis County on the Cowlitz River, but this is our ancestral area as well. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Patty.
And definitely the archaeological work would be done before construction. That's part of the process. So absolutely.
Perfect, thank you. And thanks, Patty. Just as an FYI, I did email the appropriate person at our tribe and asked if they have been consulted by you folks yet. So he's in the loop now. His name is Seth Russell. And we're very familiar, and like Patty mentioned, and we're used to working with different firms and agencies on this type of work. As some of you may know, the Cowlitz Indian tribe spans over 6 million acres, our Aboriginal territories from Mount Rainier to the Columbia River over into Portland, Oregon. The land was taken from us by the US government and we were paid less than $1 per acre. So our Aboriginal land is quite expansive, and that does include Washougal. Our old ways, we traveled around by canoe on the waterways. And so you may have seen us looking at intensely at that photo. So I saw Patty ask in the chat where that photo came from. So we would like follow up on that, please. I know you said you would look into that. I actually lived in Washougal for about 15 years, so I'm very familiar with the area. So I know the library definitely needs to be upgraded. Libraries are actually utilized a lot more than I realized that they were. I thought libraries were a thing of the past. They're actually not. I know Multnomah County has a big library bond. They're putting in a number of libraries too. We were sent a list of questions, thoughts to think of. So I didn't know if you had intended to ask us these questions during this session today, if you wanted to ask us any of these questions for our input, or if that was kind of what your process was. We definitely have some thoughts and some ideas for the process. Laura?
It depends on how much content you have. We can also have a separate meeting and we can gather those thoughts from you, Suzanne. It's up to you, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure, like, if I'm not sure what your process is, if you want our input on this, or if you primarily have us here because this is our Aboriginal land, and if it's more of a community input process that you want included. As you know, as the tribe, I mean, definitely there are some things, that are important to us, maybe some signage, that this Aboriginal Cowlitz land, things that are important to Indigenous people is, and I heard you speak about, the landscape, the greenery is important, and that's important also to other people as well. A little bit of nature, including the sunlight. What did I see, Patty? See here. Yeah, cultural design. So there's a lot of different things. use of words and language is really important. So we can have a separate meeting if you like. I mean, I don't want to feel like I'm being rushed off by any means, but
No,
I
not at
wasn't
all.
sure what your process
If you have,
was.
keep going and talk about your comments.
Yeah, and I heard you say that you had some meetings previously, and we weren't aware of those. We like to be involved in, you know, I appreciate the invitation today, and appreciate being involved in the process at this point. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I have a question. I am new to the community, and so basically what I would like to know is what is the increase in footage from the old library to the new one? Basic question.
That's a good question.
What's our current?
What's the current library?
It's slightly over 2,000 square feet. 2,200 square feet. So
The new one. And the new one?
it's 13,000.
So a lot bigger.
Yes.
So for those on Zoom, the question was what is the size increase from the current library to the new? And the current library is about 2,200 square feet, and the new library will be about 13,300 square feet.
6 times. That's it.
6 times.
I have to say one more thing. The original designs, the original thoughts are very impressive. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
How is the coping with our parking problem?
Well, the city,
Are they gonna allow us to build without having any parking?
yes, they will. And so the city is involved in the plan at City Hall to increase that number of parking spaces to be used by the library and the public.
Has anybody thought about putting parking under the Main Street level of the building?
It's really very, very, very expensive to do underground parking. So it's kind of cost prohibitive at this point for the project.
Yeah.
Another question, if you don't mind, since we have been told that the city is planning parking just up there, so maybe we should just discard that first one that has the local fruit 6 or parking and just forget that plan.
Thank you for the comment. The first option does have its challenges, so I think it's a good comment. Thank you.
Okay, well, we can break up the presentation now, and this is part of the agenda, and we're more than welcome to take questions at the boards, and you can put comments on the boards as well that we'll record. Yeah, and for folks that are online, again, the presentation will be posted, and there'll be a way to leave comments there. So if you go to the library website, and this recording will also be posted. So thank you to everyone online. Is there no more questions, Calvin, from anyone on the chat?
Is that it for us? Then you're going to excuse us. Is that what I understand?
Yeah, you can if you have any other thoughts or follow up, you can speak now, or we can have follow up after in a separate conversation. But if you want to address the whole group, now would be the time with any other thoughts.
Patty, do you have anything?
What are your thoughts on the roof?
We are just starting to look into that. So a few ideas. We're definitely interested in treatment of rainwater on the site, and so maybe using a roof form to expressively do that, and also incorporate rain gardens and that type of thing within the courtyard or the outdoor space. We're still in the very early phases of starting to explore roof form.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yeah, sure.
I like the idea of north facing clerestories.
Yes.
A lot of art studios.
Absolutely.
Like that even light.
Mm-hmm.
And then also that would give you a southern slope for solar panels.
Yep.
Okay.
Definitely. We're on the exact same page. We talk a lot about the benefits of northern light for reading rooms as well as art studios. So
a lot of old industrial buildings have a series of them.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, well, thank you to everybody that's online. And we're having another meeting tonight from 6 to 8 that will also be virtual. And if you have any other thoughts, you can contribute then as well. And with that, we can end the virtual portion and take comments at the boards.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you.